minutes. Actually, Tom.
Okay. Oh, Gary.
He's not coming.
He's not coming?
No Gary today?
Okay. So, staff, just as a question. Didn't we all reply and then there was another go-round of, it came to our emails again for us to reply to this? Or certainly it happened to me.
Yeah, so there was a doodle poll, and then it was, so the day was selected, an email went out,
Yeah,
and a calendar invite went out. Yeah.
and then it happened again.
No, and then I got an invite from you, and I
got
have
an invite from you
two.
too.
Well, it came to me, so I'm going, I don't know what this is. I'll just say, yes, I know I'm going. And then everybody's going, oh, you already did that. So anyway,
I think somehow you must have placed something.
I did not initiate anything.
Okay, so there wasn't a second one. I was curious too.
Me too. Good, okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah,
Technology,
sometime you
it's
can make
lovely.
sure we're not having to use calendar invites.
So a call to order then?
I think, you know what, the ferry might just be late,
Okay.
because I know she was coming, and Kate was coming with her.
Okay.
Yeah, the ferry hadn't unloaded when I came up.
It's
Yeah,
in.
Welcome everyone to another design panel meeting. I guess first on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
I don't have any items.
Okay,
No new items?
no?
Or late items, rather? Move to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Super. And on to adoption of the minutes. Has everyone had a copy and had a chance to go through them? That was here or had interest?
I move to accept them as typed.
I second. That seems appropriate.
Seconded.
I do have a comment on the minutes from
Yeah.
last week. We talked about the distillery, the copper distillery. And we approved the signage on it, the big one. As you could see it coming down the hill. They didn't do it that way. They put it on the other side of the building so you could see it from the ferry in the park. And I don't know how you correct that, or if that was just our recommendation and they did what they wanted to do anyway.
You're talking about the lettering on the side of the building,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
This copper distillery.
Yeah.
Was
At
that?
least they could have.
That was what they
letters.
sent, what they sent was it on the side facing the ferry.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Originally it said, you know, so you could see it coming down. At any rate, that was just a comment.
So the panel recommended refusal on the sign on the front, that was the light box sign, so we rejected the front signage.
Yeah, I remember that.
Based on that, we haven't come back with a revision yet, and they proposed the lettering on the side of the building facing the ferry, and that's what's there now.
So the outstanding is that they're gonna come back with a
I'm gonna
face
say-
of the building?
Yeah,
Facing the street,
yeah,
I assume.
yeah.
So in theory, that's two signs, correct? One on the building and one on the
Yeah.
street.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Related to that?
Yeah,
Perfect.
it's, I thought we had a sign bylaw that said your sign had to be a certain small size.
Yeah,
And the
4
sign
by
that,
32
Yeah.
square feet
yeah,
total.
and the sign that's on the side of that building is quite big. And I remember seeing it coming before council, and I just assumed they were some of those lettering that comes to you on plans. I didn't realize it was, looked like a label. And so I'm just wondering how, I don't know if that's a question for this panel, but I'm curious because it came up.
Yeah, and then,
How does it square with our bylaws?
and then do we measure each letter? Or do you include the background to each letter?
Right, is
Or
that
the
one
cover,
sign or
is
20
it all the letters added up to a certain square inches?
Yeah.
Does that make a sign, or is it the background? I mean, typically when you get a sign, here's the sign, right?
Yeah.
And it's got a little surrounding area, and we measure that, that's, the 4x8.
As I recall, the intention of the sign bylaw was so that Bowen didn't have billboards. And
Yeah,
Bowen
absolutely.
didn't have,
Right,
from days gone by, so that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
And yet this sign is at that scale, so that's a question I have, and I'm not sure, I wasn't on this committee, this advisory committee at that time, so I don't know what can be done, but
It's,
just
there's
have
also,
questions.
well, there's also the fact that it's attached to the building as opposed to a standalone. Like, I think also part of the intent of that sign bylaw is to restrict standalone signs from getting too big.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it's essentially the same size and could be bigger, but it'd still be the side of the building. I'm running into definition issues, this is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So this sign, our land use bylaw, sign means any structure which through any medium or device is used to attract attention for advertising information or identification and is visible from any street or lot other than the lot on which the sign is located.
Then technically it's too big.
So it gets a question of, if you paint the side of a building,
Mm-hmm.
right, is it a sign or is it
Yeah.
a wall?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I don't think the language of the bylaw
No.
is explicit enough.
So maybe this committee would like to.
We had lots of discussions over the sign bylaws in the past, as far as, is that too big, is it backlit, is it, is it carved out, all those things, but it was all about forming character and signs.
Mm-hmm.
And the forming character to do with, whether it was glaring in your face, no neon, all that kind of stuff. Of course, we have neon signs on Bowen, but it seems that they don't exist. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's like, is that a wall or is that a sign? Does that calculation include measuring each letter, or is it the whole scale of the side of the building? I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes up the space, I'm guessing, that's long for the word copper.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I agree with you.
Way
Yeah.
over the
Yeah.
limit.
So maybe this committee would like to recommend to council that the definition of sign be further better defined.
For certain.
So, I don't know if I can make motions.
I think you can,
I
right?
don't
You're
think it's
really
in our-
sorry,
That's fine.
yeah.
I think we can certainly make that motion.
Yeah.
Greater clarity is necessary in our sign bylaw to review recent signage that's been put up. That we are grappling with defining.
Mm-hmm.
It's not without precedent, that sign. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Union Steamship Company, written on a long thing, and
Yeah.
it looks fine. But, so,
That's true. That's a good point.
Face the street, and no one could see it except the people on our side. They wouldn't let us put one up
On the streets.
on the street or on the end of the building.
but it's sort of the same thing, isn't it? It's written on the building.
On the building.
Yeah, so, I don't
You
know.
can't really see
But definitely,
that from the street that well. It's more or less just when you arrive on the ferry. After that, it gets somewhat
Park
obscure.
and, all around.
And
The main thing I object to it is, it isn't in the keeping of the classical, I can't remember the wordage that.
We've used.
yeah, I was gonna say there's two
It's
components.
temporary,
There's
contemporary, and as they said, they didn't even do it in copper.
That's a good point. There's the technical aspects of size, and they should be, in theory, relatively easy to sort through as opposed to the subjectivity of form of character, which is a little more debatable, I suppose.
It will be hard to control any signage after we've allowed that, as we the
Will, and hopefully shortly after this discussion, there could be something on municipal agenda that brings up the definition of our sign, or the wording of our sign bylaw.
So this could be a motion that the group may wish to make would be something like that the advisory design panel recommend to council that staff revise the definition of sign in the land use bylaw for further clarity?
Yes.
Do you remember when?
Or does this committee want to do that? They might refer it back to you.
Well, they'll probably give it back.
And
to
if they
us.
do, that's fine.
Do you remember when the
They should-
black
they should be aware
tarp?
of it.
So, Ellen, do you remember when the black tarp got slung over the early sign?
No, long time ago.
Well, it's a relative term. I wouldn't say it was that long ago. I remember it.
Oh, you don't mean it,
So it can't
you
be
mean,
that long.
you mean early with an I.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Not the early sign. I'm talking about at the building center. There was at a time, it's long since gone, that tarp, but it was a interesting discussion throughout the island whether that constitutes wrong or not. But, you know, if you go out there, is that a sign or is that the side of the building? I mean, anyway, there was a point, there was an issue with,
Yeah.
Well,
Was
it's
it
part
behind?
of, it's part of Bowen's identity. Bowen community has always had this thing about being different signs. They didn't want billboards. They don't even do election signs.
that's right.
And
We just do the road signs. And a lot of those.
not for a minute. Yeah.
Well, a lot of those.
Well,
They've been growing.
They grow every spring.
That's- Yeah. But anyway, so that was my.
I like your word.
So, if somebody could move that.
The council directs staff to revise the land use bylaw?
The definition of sign in the land use bylaw for further clarity.
Yeah.
Just so
And
it
is it
said
the
what.
land use bylaw or is it Snug Cove specific?
It's the land use bylaw, so we define sign, and that's where the size is. The other one would be to look at, it's just specifically Snug Cove design guidelines, right? And
Right.
you're talking more about signage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just,
But yeah.
Maybe there should be a specific reference to signs on buildings
Yeah.
and scale, so they know what we're talking about.
Good point, Jeremy.
yeah, give more, definitions are way better when they have more information.
Yeah.
More wording than not.
Reference to signs on buildings?
Versus standalone signs.
Like just looking online, like District of West Van, their sign definition doesn't limit it to a structure, but it's saying it's just the active signage in itself. So
Yeah.
it's any identification, description, illustration, or device, and it's not about so much of being
And
so it
that's
doesn't
what
capture
we used to deal with.
painting.
Was the, if you're, you know, if you remember, was the total square footage of the sign was given in our design guidelines. So that, so many times that we'd have a building, and then of course they got different tenants, and we all had to measure up, make sure you weren't going over, or too much over, or do you count both sides of the sign?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, nowadays there's even projection at night, right? Put lettering on the side of your house, there's different things so that.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe, I'm just wondering if it shouldn't, the revision specifically confine itself to building, to the buildings, clarify the land use bylaw in regards to signage on buildings.
Yeah.
As opposed to integral signage, I don't know how you would phrase that, signage integral to a building.
Signage with a wall behind it.
I think you need the word heritage in there, so I think that's the word that we're trying to get the code to maintain the heritage. But I can't remember, we're all under that definition.
Yeah, arts and craft,
Yeah.
so to speak. I mean, but we did have a situation where, in the past, where you got a standalone sign which was big enough that it limited what someone could put on. Every time we've talked about, you know, Kate's Corner and the various things that have happened there, and we talk about signs and going, well, that's getting bigger, you know, you can't have this because when's the next building? Is it all the one building? And that was for, it wasn't for the building, it's for the property,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
so that was another definition that used to be, you know, you're talking about standalone versus on a building, but it's per property.
The reason I used the words land use bylaw as opposed to strictly in code was because this could happen on any building
Yeah.
on Bowen.
That's
It's
why I brought
not
it
a
up.
Outside
wide
the
issue.
code,
That's
right?
why I
So
brought
that's
the
why
building
I was
center.
thinking, clarify this one first and then maybe.
Well, that's a good point, and that's the trigger for why it should go in theory in front of the council, because it's not a wide issue. And then this cove component of it could be looked at under that guise, I would think.
Yeah.
Our purview isn't island-wide, it's just for the cove.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I don't know, maybe we've looked at many things. Seems that council throws things at us and says, oh, now we'll look at Belterra, we'll look at the golf course, or, you know, and
Yeah,
sort of,
yeah.
it
That's what
seemed
I always
like,
kind of wondered, is Belterra formally considered part, or is it considered peripheral cove, or what is it? Doesn't
no, man, and it doesn't even meet our quote,
No.
Stunk Cove design panels, we just, guidelines, we looked at it and went, well, you know, you've got it all set, and then we agreed that we liked it,
Well,
and it went straight.
As part of that, they wrote their own guidelines.
That's right.
Guidelines specific to Belterra, so that if any future development happens to.
Well, that segues really nicely into what these people, what Robin's gonna bring
They're all
forward, is
here now,
because
so we could
the
maybe,
design pan, you know, the
Yeah.
design guidelines there were brought to us fait accompli, and we discussed them.
Yeah.
And said, yeah, that's fine, the design panel approved, if we, you know, sent our recommendation to council that we approved the design criteria that you have for Stunk Cove House.
Yeah.
So we kind of jumped in before we even done the minutes, but
Yeah.
there's a motion here, I don't know, has
The
it been?
panel
There is.
The panel recommended council direct staff to revise the definition of sign in the land use bylaw and Snug Cove design guidelines for further clarity, with specific reference to signs on buildings as opposed to standalone signs.
That's pretty good.
It should be as well as standalone, or as opposed to, I mean, it's like,
Uh,
you,
Probably more as well.
Yeah.
as well, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think that wherever you can add more definition.
Absolutely, good, I agree.
In addition to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Whose motion was that?
pardon,
Whose motion was that?
Yeah.
it's nobody's yet.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Oh, there you go. I'll second it.
There
Am
we
I
go.
allowed to add
You-
the ferry sign?
No,
Oh, yeah, oh.
BC Ferries
What about
doesn't,
those illuminated
They're not gonna
signs we're not
play.
allowed?
BC Ferries doesn't listen to
They
anybody.
don't play well with others.
But that's,
How did they
there's
get
another
to do
kind of-
that?
There's another.
Oh, yeah. the
Yeah.
bright-
No, I
Yeah.
God. Oh.
I think council actually should look at the signage guidelines, because I think there's also, with the no illumination, there's also the issue of just, it's dark in the cove at night, and sometimes it's hard to find places, and it's like an accident waiting to happen, so maybe a sort of global look at it makes sense.
I agree.
Well, we're allowed to illuminate it, we're just not allowed to have sort of more indirect as opposed to.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
think the whole picture needs looking at, really.
It does.
I really like that illuminated sign.
You do?
Wasn't the Beaumont originally lit?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
But for years, the light wouldn't go on.
that's right. There was a lot of that.
Like a lot of things.
So we got used to it now.
Yeah.
Good.
So you want to say, any more discussion?
Any more discussion
No.
on signage?
And then you would say,
But there's another piece to this, well, all in favor?
pass.
Super.
I'll bring up the other piece.
Well, the other piece was quite specific in this about the propane tank.
Yeah, and I just don't know how it got approved, or if I wasn't here on it. Talking about the same building. In the back of it, they have a 5-foot setback from my property. And they're put in 3-foot tanks with 6 inches from them, so it leaves about 18 inches from my property line to exit the building. They have an exit out the back, and I think that the building department should probably have picked it up, but, you know, if that's an exit, they've only got 18 inches to get out if I put a fence up. And that's what I'll do, because the back of it is sort of ugly up against our cottages.
Yeah.
And originally, they were going to put it in the front buried, so you wouldn't see it, and it could be filled in the front. The other problem is, they can fill it now, because they can go up drive down the Snug's driveway, the tank truck, and fill it. However, if the snug, or when the snug builds their building, I'm sure they'll build it up next to theirs so that they won't have any access at all
Right.
to that, short of going through the building to fill it, or through the backside of our property, through the parks, and they'd have to still come through our property.
Have you looked and to see if do they have a connection out at the street so the truck just sits there and services it that way?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming,
That's a good idea.
I don't know
But I mean,
anything
I
about it,
just,
so.
you know, it's the building department that has to take care of this, because that's a big
Yeah,
screw
so
up.
can we recommend that the building department look into this?
So I've asked them, every time Rondi's brought it up with me about the back, so I've asked the fire chief, Public Works, and the building
Do
inspector.
they know where the property lines are?
Yes. So they've all looked at it, and every time I've asked them, they've said, no, we don't have an issue with the propane tanks in the back of the building.
Okay.
Even with fire escape egress?
So every time,
It might
every
not
time
be
I
a
brought it up,
required exit,
you know,
who knows?
But if, like Ronnie says, the neighbors are built
blocking
out,
address, yeah.
then they have to feed it by going through the building.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that being done, but I suppose it does get done. I can just picture it coming out the window on the other side, and the guy going out the back door. Because I mean, if they all say, okay, I guess it's,
As long as the
Yeah.
Muni says it,
Yeah.
but undoubtedly it's going to block their exit. I don't know how they do that. Or maybe they don't have an exit in the future anyway there if the snug builds up against it or.
Right, because they don't, yeah, because out the back, they don't have a guaranteed exit to the street anyways from the back of their property. So I don't know if they can't be using that as a egress point anyways.
Right.
Because in theory, you could build up to it and the snow could build up to it, and then it doesn't matter if they're blocked anyways from there.
right.
I just ran it up.
Yeah.
Just an exit for smokers who could be out by the.
Perfect.
The smoke hole.
Those feeling lucky?
Do we need a motion there of any sort?
To
I
adopt.
think so.
Oh, yes, but I was just thinking specific to the propane tank, yeah. Move to adopt the minutes. Great. We don't need, do we need to speak to the actions and schedule? We're going through.
We already have, apparently.
How do you think we got this straight from real estate?
Yeah, the end of the day. Okay, so, no public comments? New business. Okay, so presentation time?
Presentation.
Hello, most of you know me, those that don't, I'm Emma Chow, the Island Community Planner, and presenting to you today a development permit application for 1072 Foxglove Lane. That's located right off Miller, the Stud Cove House lands, previous lands, yes, and it is the corner lot that you see right here. A 4-unit residential building is being proposed, and this is the architectural rendering, with this face, the side of the building facing Miller Road here.
Miller, did you say Miller Road?
Miller Road, yeah, on the side. So this is the site plan. As you can see, the building takes up the eastern half of the lot. So just going to run through the elevations. As we mentioned, this is the face that is towards Miller, the east elevation, and then just going around the corner to this side, this is the north elevation, and swinging around to the front. This is the side of the building facing Foxglove Lane, and where people will enter to park and access their units. And then this is the south elevation, which you would see if you were driving up Miller.
Or going up the next day, the neighboring property.
Right.
Right.
The little lane. that
The little
goes up
lane there,
to
yeah,
the
right.
Foxglove.
Hardtack Hill. The seniors call it.
Yeah.
This is really small font, so you can't quite see the descriptions. But Robin has very nicely provided a material board, which I can read a little bit. And Robin can present in a little more detail.
Sure, I can hold it for now. You want me to explain it now?
Doesn't matter. Do you guys want me to just briefly go over the landscape plan and then get into the details, or?
Either way, whichever suits you best.
Let me just cover off the landscape plan, and then it's Robin, you have all of them. So the landscape plan has already been, the design and the landscape has been approved by Snuffco House Society, so it meets their design guidelines. This has been designed by a local landscaper, and comments back from the Parks Department are that these plants are acceptable for the site. They're not considered invasive and generally native to Bowen. Also very, very tiny print here, but it is included in your package. So you should be able to see the type of species and plants that are recommended for the site. And that's
Page
about it.
14.
So, I don't know if there's any questions. These are the general key considerations from the development permit area guidelines. So we're looking at landscaping that has native vegetation, provides a green rural backdrop for the village. The design should minimize view obstruction, give an impression of small-scale building forms. Any parking should be screened from the public. In this case, they're very, very small lots, and for the most part, it is screened from the main road, Miller Road, facing the smaller Foxglove Lane. And the character of the building is meant to reflect that of the nearby village commercial areas, generally the arts and crafts. So I think I'll leave it on. Actually, if you're going through materials, I'll bring it back to the this so you have an idea of what correlates with which part of the building.
Yeah, so yeah, the colors on there don't quite reflect well. And I can pass this around if you want to look at it more closely. But it's generally going for a green and sort of brown on the main parts of the building. So the lower part is this darker green. The middle sort of floor is this beige color. And then the upper floor is, it's a little hard to tell, it's a very mossy light green, kind of beigey green, so that's that top bit. This color, and sorry, I didn't have a good sample, it's a dark gray metal roof, or it may be asphalt shingle, we haven't got the pricing back, so it'll be but similar coloring, and then that would be the trim, that would match that, so the trim on the side and around the windows. And the windows are white vinyl. The lighting's quite a small, subtle little one that'll just be placed for, you know, stairs, front entrances, one or two at each deck. But they go up, and I think actually they go down. You can do up or down, but they don't go out. They're quite, so just for a little bit of lighting so nobody trips and falls. The decking is this material, which is sort of, it's a wood grain look, which I don't, you know, I kind of cringe a little bit, but it's one of those balances of budget and function. We need the decks to not be sort of drip decks. They need to be waterproof and have soffit underneath and everything, so this is kind of the best thing, but they will be a wood look. And then this is the design for this screening, which is only, actually you can kind of see it in the design there, it's just a couple locations, and it's sort of a 2 by 2 inch lattice, which is within the design guidelines. And it's really gonna be, there's 2 spots, which I think it shows on the site plan, even on the landscape plan, at the electrical kiosk, and then behind it there's some space, and then also in the corner, which I'm trying to see where I can easily point that out. You can see it here at the lower left of the building behind the stair. So there's 2 locations. Yeah, thank you. We're just still determining, one of them will be for the propane tanks, which will be screened, and one of them will be for the garbage and the compost bins. And we're just still figuring out with the propane regulations and everything which will go where. But those are the 2 functions that will be screened behind those areas. Yeah, I mean, I think, oh, and then that's crossed out because we were gonna do the soffits in a lighter color, but the design review with the Snuffco House asked not to introduce a 4th color and asked if we could just use this color on the underside, so, and we were fine with that. So that's why it's X'd out.
Too,
Yeah, it's still light, it'll still reflect some light down, so that was not an issue at all. from our point of view. So, I don't know, does anybody want to see this closer, or,
Sorry.
no, any questions? And then I am not a landscaper, so I can attempt to answer questions if you have any, or, I don't know if you guys are more gardeners, so, yeah, if, happy to answer any questions.
One comment about the landscape plan.
Yeah.
I don't see it here, but I know in the email version, there was not only the Latin names and the generic names of the plantings, but also a description of how each one either fits or doesn't fit or moderately fits within invasive or non-invasive or
Oh,
local
okay.
and regional. I thought that was really helpful.
Yeah,
In very simple form, it just explained how each of those plants
Fit in.
is worth putting here if you want.
Yeah, okay,
It was really nice to see.
okay.
Sorry, did you mention that was in the email?
Yeah, I don't see it on this landscape plan, but unless the,
There are two columns that have been cropped off of this slide, but
Right.
I believe, I thought they were dimensions, but they might also be,
Their height and spread, I don't know if that was a
Yeah.
different one of the previous.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Might have been
I
a
wonder
previous
if it was
one.
previous
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that on the email for
I
sure.
think it was
but, yeah,
one
but
that's
like I
for this one.
mentioned earlier, they are all considered native to
Yeah.
Bowen and non-invasive.
but there was a very short little explanation as to, how native they were and acceptable and such. As
Yeah,
opposed
if
to
I-
previous.
Yeah, if I can speak to them, I'm a bit of a plant person, and the idea that they're all considered native to Bowen seems peculiar to me. And then it does say, in the notes right here, all plants are native except for lavender, sarcococca, purus, and something that's cut off. And so the ones that are native are the western sword fern and the salal, and maybe the top one, the vaccinium. So this is what we got to last time around with Snug Cove. One of these Snug Cove, the earlier Snug Cove House application was, I'm looking here now on page 18 of 18 at 1.8, landscaping. From the development permit guidelines, it says use of native vegetation and ground cover is to be encouraged wherever possible. That's fine. But Emma, you just used some slightly different information. You had on one of these slides, incorporate native vegetation.
Yeah, but I just pulled the key considerations, so the full wording is wherever
Is
possible.
this, right, wherever possible, okay. And I don't have a problem with that, because of how tight the site is and how it needs to be deer resistant and drug resistant and all that kind of thing. So I'm not gonna quibble with that. I just wanted to make the point about native vegetation, they're not all native. And so, that's fine.
But are they native plant?
They-
I'm sorry, Sue Ellen, that was a joke. From last time.
To be encouraged wherever possible. Yeah,
Sorry,
I
you
didn't
know,
wanna go down that thing
you
we
don't-
went
you don't
down
have
last
to do that
time
again,
either,
no.
yes.
So, well, then you would know, is there a master list that someone in Bowen could refer to, planting list?
I
to
think
pick
this is
from?
why we refer it to the Parks Department, so maybe they know.
Oh.
There is no kind of one plant list for Bowen.
Yeah.
We have a bird list, it's about 25 years old.
So this was, and you mentioned that when you say the parks, was that the Bowen Island Parks or was it Metro Parks? It was Bowen Island Parks, and so they went through it and they were saying that that's fine, it's not invasive, et cetera, right?
Yes.
Because we never did that last time.
Yes, and I can,
Yeah.
because it's Carla, and she sits right next to me, so
Yeah.
I know that she was researching it.
Good.
And she's,
Oh,
and she
that's
asked
great.
around
No,
and looked
Yeah.
at it.
Helps for clarity again, doesn't it?
Yep.
Absolutely, it's just one more little tick.
Yep,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem, I just want to say,
No, I think.
not exactly native, but it's fine, it says as wherever possible.
Yeah. I think the sighting, from my comment, is you fit it in nicely. You don't have a huge amount of area to fit this in, and I like the fact that you've got these little, as much as you can, the storage areas,
Yeah.
because storage in life is a big deal. Good luck on figuring out which is propane, which is garbage, you'll figure it out, but you got 4 parking spaces, and the kiosk it's on the property, is it? It's not on the road? Yeah,
No,
right
it's
pro-
on the
It's on the
property.
property, so it
Gotta work
gives you
around
a
it.
center thing to work around, right?
Exactly.
All right, good.
Yeah.
One question. Just curious, is it 4 owners that are building it, or is it
It is.
speculative?
These are 2 of the owners.
That's
Yep.
great.
And then there's 2 others, and they're all Bowen Islanders. I'm going through my head, yeah, they're all
That's great to hear.
Bowen Islanders, and they're all kind of for various reasons, either downsizing or simplifying or whatever it is.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's been really
Because
good process.
typically a fourplex would be built speculative.
It would be, yes. No, it's been a really fun process.
This is great.
Yeah. And I hope it's not the last. I think it's a
Yeah, no
really
kidding.
neat way to do things. Yeah.
Comments? I for one would like to say the design panel agrees.
I guess the.
Any other questions or?
Oh, I mean, that's the correct word to be that. That's what I meant. I would move that the ADP support the application.
I second.
All in favor? Oh, sorry, Mike.
Or Mike.
Yeah.
Or Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And just to give you a little bit of feedback, I'm not sure if you know, I'm the design approving officer generally, although I first did not approve this, it was my colleague. But what I can do is take that feedback, so when I receive further ones for the plant list, is ask them to add a column. I've said that a couple of times, so I'll insist that they add a column that addresses how that each plant meets whatever the criteria is, because we've got, in the design guidelines, it has to be, native or evergreen or, some drought resistant or deer resistant or whatever it is, so.
It helps,
Yeah.
it's just a little bit of support information.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everybody will be, whatever makes your job easier, we will.
Yeah,
We only deal with the DP ones, right?
Right, yes,
Individual
not
ones
the
as well.
individual houses, but any of the other duplexes as well, so you found.
But I assume that the individual ones would have to have the same
Yeah,
type of
they
planning
would
anyway,
be
so,
intervened.
so
Yeah.
fine, that's great.
Yeah, good, thank you so much.
Thank you. Next item.
The telescope.
494 Bowen Island Trunk Road. The telescope.
Really couldn't do anything to make it worse, so.
And you're presenting that one as well?
I am as well.
Yeah.
And the landscaping plan is not nearly as thorough. So I'll try to answer the questions as best as I can. Different, other,
It's the wrong one.
Different, other, wrong.
Next. Next, back, forward.
That one's labeled 04.
That's Foxglove Lane.
oh,
Go.
did I mislabel it?
Is it just the first slide that's?
Oh, maybe it's just the first slide.
Okay,
Maybe in my haste.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally my mistake.
Yeah, because that's. there.
Good eye,
Yeah.
good eye.
You see from experience?
Yeah.
The overcut and paste didn't work.
Yes, you can tell I did this one first. So this is actually DP 04, 2019, for the, as you mentioned, the Telus building. It is right at the corner of Miller and Dorman and Bowen Island Trunk Road there on the northwest corner. I think we're all very familiar with it, pass by it probably every day. And it is for the most part a bit of a lawn and then some tall mature trees that obscure the building for the most part. I think I included a street view in the report to give you an idea. The current building, I don't actually have a good picture of it, but it is fairly nondescript, natural light colors, and looks kind of like this behind the trees. These are the elevated, oh, did you find one?
I took one on the way here.
Perfect.
More of the trees.
Yeah, so this is what you see from the north side, which no one really sees. And then from the east side, this is coming up Bowen Island Road. You also don't really see the fallen trees.
They're taking down the fenced area. There's a very large fenced area.
Right in front of it.
Behind the building or in
No,
front?
well,
I think it's
where's
already
in
down.
front of the building?
I think it's already down.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
It's just going.
Or it's already gone?
Yeah.
It's still showing here, is all.
No.
The fencing, in the fencing in the back is to, yeah, it's to screen the yeah. I don't know which there is some fencing on the site, and it's to screen the storage use, which
Where the truck park
we
is.
require. So just more exciting elevations, looks about the same. The west elevation, I suppose, is the least covered. If you're coming down Bowen Island Truck Road, this is probably the most open face that you would see. The materials, they did not provide a material board, but I was able to hobble together some photographs based on the product descriptions they gave. They are proposing a metal recladding of the roof in a white color, and then a hardy shingle material in a dark beige, a hardy plank in a light beige. I tried to roughly replicate the colors on the building there, and then the trim is in black. It's not greatly different or exciting, but I don't know if we really want this building to pop too much
No.
on this corner. It's a utility building.
White seems like an odd choice for the roof.
I did ask several times to confirm if that was in fact the color, and they confirmed several times that was the color they wanted. If that's an issue, I could bring that back to them.
Did they had the design guidelines for?
From the beginning, I sent it to them.
Maybe they perceive white as being cheaper, and they want to stick to a budget, but
So they're not replacing the building, they're just recladding it?
Recladding.
So they're not doing anything, no structure changes, it's
Right.
just making it, well, right now it's covered with blue tarp, so I get why they're doing the roof. Or they,
They're
what?
white tarps,
Oh, it's white tarps.
whitish gray.
Well, maybe that's why,
Yeah.
yeah, well, at any rate, there's covered in tarps.
yeah.
I just think blue tarps on it. Anyway, so that's what they're doing, is just,
And they're taking out a bunch of trees.
and taking a bunch of those pines that
Other
are
pines.
Yeah.
pretty much huge.
So, if there's no more questions, I can move to the landscaping plan?
I'm just curious why they would, because white will stand out certainly more than like a slate color.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm imagining they'd be the same price, because both of those are pretty standard colors.
And
Yeah.
it's gonna look gross in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Will it
white's
grow?
On a roof, not
Yeah.
the greatest for longevity and aesthetics.
I mean, it would almost be as, that we just, can we just,
Yeah.
you look across kitty corner is the pub color, the metal roof on the pub, would
Yeah.
it make sense to have that
Absolutely.
mirror across, because white's no good.
No.
If you'd be coming down the hill, it's gonna be hugely jump at you.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
speak it? I'm just looking at the, again, page 18 of 18, the guidelines that are provided here. Color will lend a thread of continuity along the street. Color should be from a restrained palette of natural tones, preference for warm rather than cool tones. Selection of roofing treatments and materials should be made for an eye of harmonizing the colors and textures of building surfaces.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just don't think, I would be alarmed to see a white roof.
yeah,
In that, I
I don't get
think
it.
that would reflect the color guidelines.
Mhm.
And metal roof doesn't fit with the use of native materials up there. 1.6, I don't know.
Well,
Well,
But,
it actually, it's all through the code. So,
Yeah.
That's what I was asking, yeah.
I mean, I'd rather see it toned down. I like metal roofing, I think it's a,
Yeah.
it's a
We
good
just mean the
thing.
color.
Yes.
On the color, metal roof's gonna be fine because you've got, we've got cladding with metal roofing at the.
I'm new to the committee, just
Yeah.
asking, I'm
Yeah.
seeing the
Yeah.
use of,
Well,
okay.
you know, it also is one of those things where over time, you know, even when they did the new Cove Commons thing, when they went and shingled it, it was sort of like, really, you're gonna shingle that, are you? And cost, replacement.
Heritage building, but this is not a heritage.
This is
building.
not, certainly not, I mean, it's old, but it's not a heritage.
I think all those other aspects of this being okay, I think maybe we're just making some comment on the roof color.
Yeah.
Can we not just ask them to, instead of having you cobble it together, because those don't look like what you described to me? If they're coming to us, can they not give us, I mean, shouldn't they be able to give us a true number? Is this actually what that,
No, I think this is the color, that's what it looks like. That's the color, that's what
Heart.
it looks like.
okay.
Yeah, I think that
Just
there's
the
a,
color.
there's a metal roof
Yeah.
picture and there's
Yeah.
a white
Yeah,
Yeah.
color selection. And they
Got
don't, they don't
Yeah.
match, yeah.
Yeah, especially with the
It's the
Hardy,
roof.
plank and Hardy
Yeah.
shingle, they said they're painting it after, so those are the actual paint colors.
Right.
Mhm.
right, okay, well, you can do that. You can also order it that way, but I think the strong thing is the color of the roof.
Yeah, the other colors look fine. to
I mean, they'd be
me.
just
I
fine.
would just say
And
that,
if it was the same as the trim color,
Yeah.
it would be
Yeah.
congruent.
Yeah.
The trim color's black, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, black or slate, it looks kind of, I guess it's black.
yeah, I think it's a slate.
Pretty
I
black,
think
yeah.
it's like a,
Well, can I just ask, if they take out, if the trees you're gonna take out, that would be a big black roof at that corner?
I don't think it would be black. Well, that doesn't look black to me, it looks gray.
I read it in the description, it said
Yeah.
black.
Oh, does it? It says the roof is
Paint
black.
color is something black.
Black ice.
Black
Oh,
ice.
you're talking about the trim.
That's what Jeremy was talking about.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were still.
And,
you were talking
and he
about-
said the trim color would be good for the roof, and it's called black, black ice.
Well, change the, make this, make it slate colored for the roof and then slate for the trim.
Yeah.
So a comment is to match the trim with the roof and have the roof be a darker color.
Yes.
Be more
A slate,
congruent.
like a light.
But not
gray.
black.
And the,
No,
and,
probably better to be.
and the ADP recommends a slate or dark gray tone.
Okay.
Something like that, because it does say restrained palette of natural tones, so, you know, black maybe isn't as natural tone for restrained.
I also have,
Natural's a hard one.
Natural's a hard
Yes.
to
Yeah,
imagine, it's so tough.
Matches the road.
I also have a comment, maybe try to match something similar to the pub across the street.
Yeah, doesn't hurt to bring that.
I mean, I'd say it's so simple, it's that, it's close. If you introduce another color, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
it's sort of like going into Artisan Square where every other building's got a different color.
Yeah.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
This is a utility building anyway. I mean, it's not a particularly attractive building that adds to the coast character, right?
Mm.
So, my feeling, one of the questions I wanted to ask the committee was, should we ask them to paint it all just kind of a neutrally blend-in color, or whatever the terminology is, rather than these contrasting colors that we see here, and make it, something to make it.
Well, I think
Actually-
the detailing is nicer.
Is it better?
Yeah.
I think it's like all one wash, I think it's wrong, but
I'm not a aesthetic person,
No.
I'm just trying to work from what I see. Okay.
Maybe they should take a look, well, the museum and archives is like right there, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they should be looking towards that,
See your picture.
colors and choices, and then kind of group it all together.
Yeah,
I like
Well,
that.
and
I
our-
photographed that.
the question also, Emma,
Defense might be-
well, last time we had
Yeah.
museums and
It's clear back.
archives in here, and they were talking about working in conjunction with TELUS and making the picnic area and all of that stuff. Is that still happening in conjunction with the museum?
I haven't heard on progress, so I don't know one way or the other.
Well, because they're talking about making a little area.
Picnic area here or something like
Yeah.
this on Tellus's property?
Yeah, I think when I last heard from the museum and archive, where's my site plan?
There was reference in here to replacing trees with picnic table.
Okay, here.
Mhm.
The museum landscaping plan was
Yeah.
to come out
Yeah,
and use this
that's right.
area,
Yeah.
which they're not changing at all. They're leaving it, it's just grass right now and staying as grass.
Uh-huh.
The TELUS is.
Yeah.
And we don't know if in the future the museum's going to move forward with that? Yeah, I know, that's what happens, it comes
But
to us.
if they
and
do,
changes.
it's still there.
Yeah, and is that parking, that big clear crush?
Can I
This
jump in?
area?
Hang on a second, we got a question.
So is this parking?
I worked a little bit some time ago with the museum next door, and a lot of this was in their plans. Their long-term goal is to create a landing here for pedestrians. It'll require some steps, and then they want to get the walkway off of the street.
Yeah,
So they
right,
want
yeah.
to create a not a sidewalk, but a path.
Yeah, they came to us for that, right, Rodney?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that will come around from here, and I still don't know what they've done
I
with
think,
the fence.
Rodney, if I recall, they've taken it like it's lower and it's a reduced area than it was. That's my sense from when the museum first came, it was like a, it was
It
like
used
a
to be
10
like
foot,
12, 10
or something tall, and now it's still tall, but it's not,
Yeah.
it's like a
Probably
perfect
5 or
small-
6 foot fence instead of a 10
Yeah,
foot.
it's something like that, and it is reduced in like area from where it was, but,
Yeah, that's along the side.
and that was part of the museum, that museum DP.
So that is the parking area where it
Right.
says Clear Crush?
Here?
No,
No.
part,
It's back.
their,
This has
their
the parking.
area can go clear around to here.
Yeah.
This is all.
Gotcha.
But why do they have those little gates to go into what's called
Storage, there's quite a bit of
Clear Crush?
Oh, right,
external storage.
right, that's right.
And that's
So-
why
and-
there's fencing.
So is that, sorry, then the rectangular shape,
Is a fence.
is it gonna be
Yeah.
fence and for storage?
Yeah, it is currently.
Yeah,
So they would put their big reels of cable and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
right.
Oh, yeah, we gotta get through from the parking, that's right, to get in there, and they have it locked up. And do they have a picture of what that looks like? Or are they just, it's existing and
Not different.
they're not touching it, so we're not talking about it?
Not changing, I guess.
Okay.
Like, I don't have any elevations. But
Yeah, I understand.
But I like the idea of not only mentioning the pub, but also mentioning the museum and archives
Yeah.
building as a reference, right?
Yeah,
To blend in with or look to for a reference, because it's the closer one and they're
Yeah.
planning the time that building together, it's a good idea.
I just wonder if that would be a confusing thing
No.
to make it look like, maybe it should be distinguished because it is
I kind of like what they've got here, except for the roof color.
Yeah.
Just changing the roof color to a gray charcoal.
One that might,
Make
that'll
it
be
easier
one or
ways
the other,
to
yeah.
a.
Yeah. Because the shingles do actually match with the museum, and they match with the pub as well. There's shingle detail on both of those, so
Yeah.
cleaning up that area, it's fine. I think, and probably most of us are more concerned about, so what is this, what picnic table area, like, what's that all about?
Yeah, so that brings us to the landscape plan here. So I just put the proposed plan for space so you can actually read some of it. But you have both the existing and proposed in the report. And the main landscaping they're doing is removal of trees. And they're only really doing that because those trees are becoming hazard trees. They're getting quite big and growing over the building. So these are the trees that are being retained, the ones shown in this plan here.
Do you know if they're taking out the big power pole in the corner? It shows on here, on the red, there's a huge power pole with a brace on it right in there. I was just curious.
Yeah, and it doesn't show on the other one, does it?
Yeah, I don't think they're touching the power pole at all.
And it looks like really there, is it really only 1, 2, 3 trees that they're taking out? The Scots pines? Is they're that big and that bushy?
2,
5,
3,
6,
4,
7.
5, 6, 7.
Oh, right across the lawn too.
They're
Those
taking them
ones-
all.
Oh, the ones across the lawn, that's what,
Well-
sorry, I missed that, yeah. I thought it was just in the red area that we were talking about.
They're the ones with little X's through them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Regarding those trees too, be nice to ensure that they take the stumps out.
Yeah, just leave
Occasionally
3
that
foot.
doesn't happen.
No.
Can I ask, my comment was I went down and took a photo of them and they don't look like hazard trees to me. Like it may mean that they're, do they have to get a arborist to tell us that they're, it says that in their description, but I'm going, they're just tall trees, they're getting taller. Could they limb them up? Like I just don't know why they want to take them out. I think it'll really change the character of the corner, and really what they're doing is removing vegetation, and then this building will be exposed there, the picnic table beside it.
Well, yeah, and there's no reference to why they're being determined as hazard trees here.
No, and this thing that's called garden, I'm going, are they going to be maintaining it? Because they haven't been maintaining it up till now. So,
They told me their plan is not.
yeah, not to,
Yeah.
because I, you know.
And they look like just filling that area with boulders and planting grass around it.
Mhm.
it looks like it could be ugly, and I'm, and I'm just concerned, I wonder if this committee might just suggest that they limb up the trees a little bit and ensure that they're healthy, because
Oh, okay. Thank you.
they're a feature. They're just-
Well, they are, and if they're going to determine that they are hazardous, then we need to know why.
Yeah.
Well, it ultimately comes down to a matter of screening the building, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the trees do, in essence. That was probably the original intent. If they're adamant about that, maybe we should suggest an alternate type of vegetative screening.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, it's not a,
Well, when they put the screen up first, it was just those massive treated posts, and they angled sort of the louvers across there, just
Yeah.
and it just also, well, there's there, and then everybody saw it for a long time.
We don't have a tree bylaw, do we?
No, not at all.
So that you really can do anything you want with the trees.
Yeah.
Although
And we would
have
say
the-
in instant code, you're in a form and character,
Yeah.
regulates landscaping.
And there's a specific
And nobody
guideline.
It
has
doesn't
trees.
say, I mean,
It doesn't say you cannot
Cannot
cut trees down, no.
But there is a guideline, which one?
A specific guideline that says mature trees should be retained wherever possible.
Oh, yes, 1.8, effort should be made to retain existing mature trees, both evergreen and deciduous.
well, there you go.
Okay.
Send back
And therefore, if these trees are deemed hazardous, we need to see an arborist report.
Yeah.
Diagnosed by an arborist, that's not the right.
Ooh, as determined by,
Determined, yes.
like that.
By a tree doctor.
Stethoscope.
I would just bore right through the middle and make sure that you find it.
With a copper drill, yeah.
Yeah.
The building shares some genes with the original iteration of the distillery.
Yeah.
Right now, the tarps are hanging on by ropes tied to, strings tied to the trees.
Do you want to send this to me? I mean, by email.
Oh, send it to you, though.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
So we're-
there's a comment here that, was it the Parks Board, somebody said it's not clear that they're replacing those trees with
Yeah, that's on the
something
back a couple pages,
Yeah.
yeah.
similar, and, I mean, trees take a long time to grow once you
Yep.
take them down, like,
Yeah.
one tree is one thing, all of them is another. I think the community would be shocked.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, agreed.
We would hear lots of noise.
Well, and, yeah, and I keep coming back to that word hazard. Who put that word hazard in there?
Well,
Who came up with the word hazard?
the applicant,
Yeah.
I would say, unless there is, something we haven't seen, that the trees are actually doing that or growing in underneath the foundation, and
Yeah.
someone's gonna have to determine that.
Yeah.
Because even if it's growing like that, you might wanna, as Sue Ellen says, thin it out,
Prune it.
to get some advice as to what we can do.
Yeah.
Why are they taking them out of the rest of the property? I understood against the building,
Yeah.
because of worry about cost of the roof, the reason they're replacing the roof, all these things, trees come down. But why take out these other ones going down the hill?
Well, they're leaving
The
two.
septic.
Well, no, but these two here, these three right across the hill, like that.
Yeah.
So they're leaving,
Leaving that one,
Yeah.
they're leaving
that one.
those ones and that one.
Okay, so,
But they're
Yeah.
they're
See,
taking
there's-
one of the three out.
one, yeah,
And there's quite a bit of space between the building and the trees, if they pruned it up a little bit.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
No, good, thanks, Will.
Yeah.
But it's just, don't know why they would have to, as you say, take them all.
The clear thing would be
Yeah.
just simply to emphasize the importance of screening the building.
Mm-hmm.
And in case they have some comeback that's legitimate about,
Danger,
Taking them out.
hazard trees has to come down. that kind of stuff.
that we assert that they,
Oh,
So
Do we
option-
have to screen
Replace them
them?
appropriately.
no, I don't think they have to, but it makes sense that they should do. I think that was
Yeah.
the original intent of the tree.
I mean, that tree grows out, it doesn't grow into the building, right? It's
It
leaning
could be a
away.
power line issue.
Oh, thank you, Steph. Yeah.
That's much easier,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow, nice.
I mean, those trees would, some people would like to have trees like that on their property.
You're right, option one would be keep the trees and prune as required.
Yeah.
And option two, if we've got an arborist report, is to look at replanting
Mhm.
sufficiently.
and sizable.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're gonna.
Sizable. I don't wanna see a
Yeah,
5-foot
that'll
tree.
cost.
Oh, that'll cost, but I don't wanna see a 5-foot tree there.
Somehow.
And I've included the comments from the Parks Department. They were concerned about this landscaping plan, and that the tree removal was not being replaced with suitable
Yeah.
vegetation.
Yeah.
And they did also recommend that if they were to replace the plantings, that they be native, non-invasive, and that they consult with a local landscaper,
Experienced landscaping.
especially with our deer.
Well, I think, can't we, I mean, recommendations that they consult, I mean, can it be part of the DP that somebody has to tick it off that it actually happened? Like, I mean,
I don't
I mean,
think we have that in
almost-
the requirement.
What I'm hearing from the panel is, are you saying you want to see it again, or are you saying we will approve it based on you doing these things? But
No.
maybe you're more saying,
We'll see it
go and do
again.
these things and come back.
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like the design's fine, we can't change that, I mean, it's what it
Yeah.
is. Change the roof color, we're
Yeah.
all gonna buy into it,
Yeah.
but this whole, to decimate that corner is, we, as Betty said, we're gonna hear about it.
It's kind of tragic.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's not village revitalization.
No, it's
no,
really
no, no.
And I,
And if I look at a photograph like that and they say, well, that's a hazard tree, okay, cut off the left-hand side of that tree,
Yeah.
we're fine. I mean,
prune it.
I don't believe that. And,
No, I don't
and when I see the design that they showed all those trees they're gonna cut going down the slope, doesn't make any sense to me either.
No.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you know, Emma, where the property line is on there? I guess I'm thinking where the crushed is, it's like, can they instead have a pedestrian movement, and somebody tries to walk that way? Is that our road that we should be fixing up, or is that the municipal property?
Oh.
Or is that the
Oh,
private
is it-
property
oh,
where
right.
people actually cut across and saying, like, I guess I'm thinking,
Are you like,
no, down Bowen
like
and Trump.
this
Like
could be
this
road
part.
right away, right? Over
Yeah,
here.
right.
No, the one up Bowen Island Trump Road.
Bowen Island
Along
Trump
by
Road.
it, going on
Oh.
the Trump, yeah.
Like if you come down the hill and you cross
Yeah.
Senior, and then you're in this like weird in between zone. There's
Yeah.
a fence
Yeah.
there, and if you walk one side, you're like in the gravel, and the other side, you're
Yeah.
like on the road shoulder.
So is the
And so I don't
question,
know-
where's that fence relative to the property?
Yeah, where's the property line?
well,
It's
real,
not listed, yeah.
or that's
Yeah.
that
It's hard
walkway.
to tell since they don't
Yeah.
show the fence there.
Yeah, like I'm looking.
We're not talking about that, we're talking here,
Yeah,
along there,
yeah,
right along this.
yeah, and
Yeah.
there's like a
Yeah.
weird drop in grade
Yes,
change,
absolutely, yeah.
but we can't really tell where that grade change is, because they don't really show it.
Right.
Yeah.
Can
But it
I
would be nice if they fixed it up.
interject or suggest something?
Yeah.
That maybe this is an awful busy walkway up and down here. We'd encourage them to put a pathway along there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like if they're
Yeah.
redoing that and you're putting a picnic table and something, it's like maybe it should be.
But then, just devil's advocate,
Yeah.
we don't have a trail easement or a statutory way along like that
Section,
frontage.
Yeah.
So if anything, if the trail is on the property right now, we're encroaching, and if they wanted to bar public access, they could,
And they potentially could fence the entire property, correct?
Yeah.
If they
at
wanted.
the top.
Yeah, that's what I'm just curious where that property line is, but I think if they're changing it for crushed, they could change it for something that people can walk on. Like, is the picnic table,
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes, it's out of there.
or
True,
is
the
it a
writing
picnic
table.
table that's
Yeah.
here for
The
the-
picnic.
I don't know,
I don't
yeah.
It's for the workers when they come,
Yeah.
right?
Is it? It's not like it's saying, oh,
Can we
here,
just-
guys, come and see.
Can we just ask them to draw that line a bit further?
Would Public Works,
Gravel it
excuse me,
in.
would Public Works have a better idea since they deal with the sewer line and stuff, so they'd be able to tell you from where the line is, where the property, and then they can say, oh, don't worry, that path that's there, it's solely on the municipal right of way. Or we're in trouble because we're really on their property already.
We better not say
So-
anything about it.
But Public Works should be able to tell us that, because they've got drawings about where the sewers are and all of the rest of it. Even if it's just sort of best guess, it's here.
Well, again, when I was working on this, there was a problem with elevation
Yep.
coming from here up to here or up to there.
Mhm.
And I can't remember what it was, other than that we had to put in 3 or 4 or 5 steps.
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell you what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
If
From
you-
having
Oh,
to
yeah.
carry big heavy signs
It just
up
goes
there
like
to
this.
put it up, yes, it's almost like a, you know,
Like
like a
45
stairway.
degree angle.
Then you have to lug your big heavy sign up, and then you put it up, and it's all kind of your sign never sits straight, so.
Is there also a
We realize
swale?
you can't do that anymore.
And we don't do that anymore.
No, we
Yeah.
don't, isn't that too bad, so.
No. Save your ankle.
So we've got
Just political.
two issues we're dealing with. There's the look of the building, which boils down to just changing the roof color, and there's the landscape. So if we can we have a sentence, I guess, about the roof, or did we have?
Want to hear what I got?
Yeah.
That the design council, I'm taking out support, provide the following recommendations regarding the application. That the trim is matched with the roof and that the color choice is dark, such as slate, dark gray, or black.
Oh, take out the word black.
Yeah. Yeah, no black.
That the color palette is chosen in consideration of nearby buildings, the museum in the brackets.
I'm not even sure if we need the second one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. As much as that's, a great precedent, it might just confuse it.
that the trees slated for removal be merely limbed or pruned, or that an arborist report be provided, and that they be replanted as appropriate.
You need something
I think-
referencing screening, the intent of the planting
Yeah.
as screening from the road.
And if we just said that they should be trimmed, full stop, as opposed to removed, because we open up the door by
Here.
basically saying, or just give us your tame arborist to come and tell us that you have to take the trees out.
Yeah, it needs
They
to be
may do
more-
that.
It needs to be more.
I would
It needs
rather
to be
say,
more-
leave the
Just trim
trees,
them horizontal to the ground.
Yeah.
never thought anymore. You know, you
So-
see the difference there, like I was thinking,
Absolutely,
you know?
I agree.
So the trees slated for removal be merely pruned or limbed.
I think we
Period.
Period.
If this is not possible, because the trees are deemed hazardous by an arborist,
Well,
No,
you're
we're,
opening the
Then
door.
you're opening
Just
the
leave it
door.
here, leave
Or
it.
if an arborist's report is provided to show that
right,
they are.
unless an
hazardous, or
arborist
something
report is
like that.
provided
Yeah.
to show the hazardous nature of these trees.
well, what are they
But
gonna,
then you
I
have
mean,
to then want to replace them with equivalent large screening trees.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Leave it with just the first
Do,
sentence.
do you want a second point that just says something like landscaping should screen the building from the
Okay.
road or something?
Yeah, a general comment that's why.
So you're saying one, don't cut down the trees, prune them, and two, the
Yeah.
landscaping.
Put in
should-
orchards.
like landscaping
landscaping
should-
it must screen the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause they're
that
not
was-
offering anything in their alternative
no.
here.
No.
That has to be stressed.
And if we, just this,
And, sorry, with the screening, if they are to remove the trees, do you want that to be a vegetative screen, not like a hard screen?
Vegetative screening.
Yeah.
Like 20.
Landscaping.
We don't want another fence around
Yeah.
it.
Hardy plant.
Yeah.
Like the.
it does say in the guideline 1.8, major trees removed from the site shall be replaced with suitable landscaping materials. Use of native vegetation, ground cover encouraged wherever possible. So I think we can, by referring to that 1.8, we kind of capture.
Except it
that.
doesn't use the term screening. It
No,
just says
that's
appropriate.
And if it just says, and really when it says major trees removed from the site shall be replaced with suitable landscaping materials, well, that's open to interpretation.
Yeah, okay.
Well, what's suitable? I
Yeah,
think it's
it's gotta be
suitable to put
screening.
periwinkle, thank you very much, it's
Yeah.
done. Oh, that's not what you meant? No,
Yeah.
you need to see, we have to be talking about screening if we're gonna go there. And I think that's, the intent here is to keep the building hidden.
Gotcha.
Because it's not animated in other ways. There's no people.
Yeah.
There's no windows. Yeah.
It's in a storefront you want to attract people to.
Yeah.
It's like-
Those tree trunks are gonna look even better if they are pruned up a little bit. We're gonna give it character. They are
They'll
gonna
look
animate,
cared for,
animate the site.
ironically. They'll look cared for.
That the panel will provide the following recommendations, that the trim is matched with the roof and that the color choice is dark, such as slate or dark gray. That the trees slated for removal be merely pruned or limbed, and that vegetative landscaping screen the building.
Oh, can we say something about that the mature trees not be removed unless you show us an arborist's?
We decided we would just leave it at they're not being removed.
Okay.
If they come back and say, well, we have to remove them,
Yeah.
we'll say, give us
Yeah.
show us
Yeah,
the
but
money.
But
But if,
they're just cut them down. And then, because they're soon,
Is this gonna come back? Because they haven't said they support it.
So you're not saying support, so I think
No.
as
It's
staff,
saying
we're
it's
bringing
gonna
it back.
Oh,
for Emma to
for
take to
support.
that.
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Phil, and I just didn't want to give them the opportunity to say, well, our arborist says they have to come out
Yeah.
because
No,
of this.
sorry, I wasn't taking it on board that it was gonna come back to us.
Arborists will do
And,
whatever
um,
they tell them to do.
Well,
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly.
that's
Sort of.
kind of what the life is.
All you're doing is slowing it down by asking an arborist to come and look at it. It
Yeah.
costs another $5,000.
So I mean, I think from staff, then we're clear, like, in terms of if they come back and say, no, we have to take them down because the trees are gonna fall down, or whatever, then our next step is to say, go show us.
Yeah.
And
Show us
then-
What are you replacing them with?
Yeah, and then that's the other piece, is then, yeah, what else is going in, as opposed to boulders.
And would you be able to do that on your own? I mean, you don't have to have us have a meeting to recommend to staff to pass that, you know, say,
I think.
I think our director, we're pretty clear,
Direction.
we can say, we can tell.
okay, good,
that that's-
yeah, that's all right.
I heard that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're still thinking.
Just in the words, no, I'm just saying the agency did not support the application and provided recommendations to staff and the applicant.
Great.
Perfect,
Okay,
Yeah.
Mhm.
full stop.
that's not in the resolution, that's in the notes. The panel provide the following recommendations: that the trim is matched with the roof and that the color choice is dark, such as slate or dark gray. That the trees slated for removal be merely pruned or limbed. And that vegetative landscaping screen the building.
Do you wanna say limbed? Or just
You
leave it
just
at pruned?
pruned.
Okay.
That sounds less
Lim-
invasive.
Limb, yeah, that sounds,
Limb from limb.
Yeah.
yeah.
Good point.
Like not remove, like, did you say something about not remove, just limbed
The trees slated for removal be merely pruned,
and not removed?
okay?
Just really hit it.
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't-
In
I-
caps, and put in caps.
I wouldn't say pruned, I would say limbed. Limbed up.
On telephone poles.
Yeah,
Yeah, but-
that does,
Yeah.
Limbed just sounds worse.
It does.
Shape.
Prune sounds more.
well, especially if you follow it up, as you did, Steph was saying that, you know, we need to have it, the building has to be screened,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, things
Yeah.
like.
So that's what it says after that?
And that vegetative landscaping screen the building.
And did we need to be any more blunt about no white roof? Or like,
That the trim is matched with the roof, and that the color choice of
Yeah.
both, I can say of both,
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, that's
is
Otherwise
dark.
we get white trim.
Yeah.
Well, no, we have,
Yeah.
yes, dark. such
White,
as-
black, and
Yeah.
white.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
no, I found, I
And
think.
it's coming back, so we can
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
Okay,
So is it coming back for sure?
Yeah.
So
Well,
do we-
unless
we
they're gonna
need
live with tarps.
Yeah.
do we need to move and second this and?
Yeah.
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 I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Passed unanimously.
Okay, so then I'll just say, ask the applicant to return to the panel.
Beautiful. And did we have any further discussions we needed to attend to? Don't believe so. Next meeting to be determined.
So we don't have any applications, I think, that we're working on, so we don't, other than this coming back. There's a couple in Snug Cove House, Village by the Cove, I guess, lots that have been talking about it, but I don't know how much has been forward, so.
Okay.
Have a good summer.
Move to adjourn the meeting.
I so.
All in favor?
Oh, it's so sunny out.
Thanks all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Good meeting.